Welcome to the Rocky Road Podcast, brought to you by Rockbusters, with your host, Dennis Wager. Dennis is a best-selling author and an expert in demolition, rock, and concrete breaking, as well as a professional blaster. He is also president of Rockbusters Incorporated, along with his son, Brian. On the podcast, you'll hear exciting stories of how these challenge types of rock and concrete jobs are done. You learn about the uses of expanding grout and explosive devices. But furthermore, you'll hear about some of the hurdles and struggles entrepreneurs and business owners have had along the way, how they got started, and how they broke through the obstacles and found the path to success. Along with that, some insight for young people and people wanting to get into the industry. So listen in. I hope you enjoy the show. Now, here's Dennis Wager.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Good morning. I'm Dennis Wager, and I'm here today with my good friend, Angel Tuccy from Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the show, Angel.
Oh, Dennis, I'm so excited to be with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be invited.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm wishing I was down in Orlando right now with you and set up here in rainy Vancouver. But we do get these days.
Yeah, the weather here. I just moved here from Denver. I lived in Denver most of my life. And so just 2 years ago, we moved here. And I love the weather here. I told my husband not too long ago, we may not stay in the house we moved into, but I definitely I'm just loving Florida. I was tired of the winter, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I know. When I was down at your place, I had such a great time and the weather was amazing and there's so many fun things. I mean, you can't get a better place to live. You live right by Disney World and Universal Studios. And, you know, when I was at the media boot camp with you, I did take extra day and I went to Disney World and had a lot of fun. I hadn't been there since I was a kid and I'm really glad that I did.
Well, I'm glad it worked out. It's one of the fun things about hosting. We host a 3-day Media Mastery Boot Camp 3 times a year. And once a year, one of those we host here in Orlando. And we try and include something around Disney whenever we can. But it's fun. A lot of people haven't been here since they were a kid. And going back as an adult, very different experience.
Yeah, it was. But I think I must have brought the rain with me because that was probably the one day of the year that it rained down there too.
Oh, it did? Oh, that's funny. I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's still a great time. But yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit about your background and what you do, how you got started.
Well, I would love to. So Media Mastery Bootcamp came after a 10-year career in broadcasting. I was a radio talk show host in Denver, Colorado, then the host of 2 back-to-back radio talk shows. I hosted what was called the most positive business talk show in America. We were nationally syndicated coast to coast, and 2 hours of just really talking about the customer experience, building your business. And I interviewed during my career, I think we had over 2,500 broadcasts and I interviewed over 5,000 people on my shows. So it was super fun. I loved doing it, loved being a part of that environment. And then I was the host of a second 2-hour Christian lifestyle show where I was talking to moms in minivans in the carpool lane, in the after school pickup lane. And that was a lot of fun too. We were on one of the highest listening radio shows in Denver. But I left all of that 5 years ago and started teaching entrepreneurs and organizations how to do their own PR, how to get booked on radio shows. At the time, it was radio, television. And then during the pandemic, we switched and started adding podcasts, newspapers, and virtual summits. And now podcasting is very big for us. And so now we still teach people how to do their own PR, how to get booked on two stages or 2 interviews a week, putting out 1 press release a month to give themselves incredible exposure. We teach that still in our 3-day Media Mastery Bootcamp. And we also help manage people. We have a handful of clients that we manage their PR, helping them to become the number 1 authority in their niche using our top distribution network. We run one of the largest online Facebook groups for helping find guests and get booked. And part of that was the Media Mastery Bootcamp that you came to just a few months ago.
Yeah, that's actually how this all started for me. The whole podcast came about by one of the people, Monique McDonald, that I met at the boot camp. as a part of your exercises in one of those days was like, oh, pick a partner and, get on each other's podcasts if you have a podcast. And I didn't, but she did. So she invited me on hers and I went on and it was a lot of fun. And then I kind of scooped her producer, Dave, who looks after managing and running the podcast and all the recordings. And he's been amazing. So thanks to you kind of initiating all of the energy or synergy, a lot has happened from that.
I love it. Before I was in broadcasting, I started with a podcast, Dennis, and
Really?
had it professionally produced, kind of like you're using Dave. He had a professional studio that built in his basement, and I went in once a week and had it professionally done. And our show got picked up by our local radio station and ended up with a career in broadcasting. And I never thought I would, but I'll tell you what, my very first day in the studio, taking my headphones off, knowing that people could pick me up right on the radio, it was just a game changer. But it's kind of come full circle because then, anybody, right, could run a podcast if you had a cell phone and an internet connection. But having it done well, professionally produced, was an absolute game changer. Not a lot of people were doing it. Then we went to traditional radio. And now swinging back around, you really want to have your own podcast. And honestly, with the production and the software and the technology, you don't have to go into the studio. You're in your own office. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It is amazing what can be done now. And the podcasting industry has just absolutely exploded. I teach my clients to go and be a guest on other people's podcasts because podcasters just like you are looking for guests every week, but also then to eventually host your own podcast to become the leading authority to attract perfect clients, attract your perfect audience. There's lots of ways that you can monetize that. To really elevate your story into the community. And so I love watching what you're doing, Dennis. So thanks so much for kind of taking the lead and jumping into an industry you'd never been in before. And what is this, episode number 12 for you?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So you're rocking and rolling now.
Yeah, we're going to launch, we've already launched, it's all live. And we're going to continue to do a show every other week. And we may have actually even increase that to one a week. It's been really, really well received. And it's been like people almost lined up to get on the show. I just have a list of people that are just so keen to get on.
I remember really that. I remember that being my experience too. We never ran out of things to talk about. There were always guests to be on the show. It was always, we used a lot of different resources at the time to help find guests. We did a lot of networking. We were involved in the community. And so we were always finding guests. And then people reached out to us who were brand new authors, who had, they were speakers doing book tours and all of that. And so you're going to find, it'll be easy for you to find guests. And then of course, if you ever run low, we have an incredible resource for you in our Facebook group, right?
With the Find a Guest. Yeah, maybe you could tell us about that. You have that amazing group. I've used it myself, where you have 20,000 members where you can find a guest or you can be a guest.
Right, absolutely.
That was a brilliant idea.
It came out. I remember being on a panel it was a publicity panel. So folks in the media teaching how to get publicity for your business. And it was a virtual panel. So we were all in our own homes, and they always ask, where do we meet journalists? Where do we find media opportunities? And at the time, the speaker, she was giving an answer to a well-known program, Help a Reporter, Haro. But I remembered thinking, if you're going to only have 5 minutes, right, to highlight your success, don't send them to somebody else's resource, send them to your own resource. And I had this light bulb moment of, I should have my own resource of where to find media contacts and how to find them, because I have them. I had been building up a relationship with them for 10 years, if not more. And I had the resources. Why not give my followers a chance to connect with them and give them an opportunity to connect with each other? And so right there on the fly, I started the Need a Guest Facebook group. And that was 2.5 years ago. We now have over 20,000 people. We've just partnered with a second Facebook group, another podcast group. So now we have over 50,000 people that we have access to
Wow.
for helping you to find guests and get booked. And we've just elevated. I just brought on a business partner helping me to manage that side. And we're starting a premium, community out of it. It is just really exploding and taking off. And I'm just tickled pink. I'm just tickled pink that it's all happening. So I'm glad that it's working out for you.
Yeah, that's great. And even with the book, since the boot camp, I've started writing my own book, which in my life I never thought in a million years I would take on. But I was so inspired by you and the boot camp and everybody else that I thought, that's probably a pretty cool idea. And it's been very good. Now you've produced the manuscript from what I've written so far, and it's nearing completion. So that'll be ready
And
to,
what a game changer
launch
that
in the
is
next
for
few months.
you, Dennis,
I've already
to elevate.
mhm.
Well, to elevate your brand, but also to separate yourself from the competition and to meet your clients where they are. The fact that you have a podcast, that you are an author, and all the other traditional things that we typically do for marketing and advertising. But the fact that you are a podcaster and an author completely separates you and elevates you in the marketplace. So I imagine this is going to be a very exciting year for you.
Yeah, thank you. And it's not only I feel like it separates me, but it also I feel more so that it includes me in other areas, like with my competitors. I mean, I don't even really view them as competitors. I mean, it's like opening up so many doors for people that are in our industry just want to work together, right? And it's not even only in our industry, like through the podcasting and the book and just meeting people. Some celebrities has been very cool. A lot of really neat people I've met. Everybody just kind of wants to connect and kind of bond and work together as a community, right? It's been really fun, really really encouraging.
I love it. I love it. It really is. It is a whole different world out there that a lot of times people aren't even aware exists. And now you're like one of the insiders. The fact that you have your own
Right.
podcast.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't even know that it existed because I mean, like Deb Drummond is the one that brought me down to the boot camp where I met you. But prior to meeting you, I mean, I always thought marketing was digital marketing. And that was, well, I mean, you of course have the old fashioned, ads and advertising, but it was always in the realm of like, okay, radio's too expensive, TV's too expensive. And I know digital, and I'm sure most people fall into the same category. So what can you do digitally? And that was what I learned. So for the past few years, I've done Google ads and Facebook ads and that kind of thing, that into marketing. But I never really even knew this real media marketing existed. And it's pretty powerful, I got to say.
I love it. I love it. You are, I think so often, people like want to figure stuff out and do the research and kind of test the waters. You just jumped in, right? I mean, honestly, it was just a few months ago. Actually, well, maybe
It
it's a
was a
little
year
more
ago.
than. Was it now a year ago? It's almost been a year. It's almost been a year.
Yeah,
Not
almost a year.
quite,
Yeah.
like maybe
Yeah.
6 months.
Not quite. Yeah. Yeah.
Dennis.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
look at all the
For
things
sure.
that you've done. You've launched a brand new company and put yourself out there in a way that has just opened up so many doors. But you've seen it, right? Being invited, being included, and having an opportunity. So often there are business owners and they're just struggling with leads and traffic and visibility and what can I do to separate, to kind of get my brand noticed. And yet every single day, there are also all these journalists, podcasters, media opportunities, magazines. They're looking for guests. They're looking for stories. They're looking for features.
Hmm.
And so we have on one hand, we have this huge conundrum, this huge challenge of the organization and brands wishing they had visibility and exposure. And we have the people who have exposure wishing they had stories. So I get to play media
Right.
matchmaker and bring people together, but not
Right.
everybody jumps in like you do, Dennis. And so I'm just thrilled for this.
Yeah. Thanks. And I think what I'm really, really grateful for is I feel so lucky that I have in my career done all these really, weird, complex, challenging jobs. And through those jobs, I was telling you about flying in a helicopter to work at the bottom of the Grand Canyon and kind of breaking concrete 120 feet underwater, and all these kind of weird calls I get where, hey, I got this, does your stuff work, or can you help me with this? And I'm like, okay, I think so. And it's just, at the time, like, well, you don't even know this one. We haven't talked in a little while, but last month I got a call from a tunneling company who's tunneling underground. They're 100 feet underground. They're tunneling 800 meters long. So whatever that is, like 2,400 feet to the middle of the Fraser River, where they're going to discharge water into the river. And so they brought in one of those big tunnel boring machines that's tunneling like a 12-foot diameter tunnel. They brought it in from Paris. And their tunnel boring machine got stuck. And it was like 6 meters from the end of the 800 meters. And it hit some rock or some steel or something. And it just kind of came to a big grinding halt that made a big shuddering noise. And it just, kind of screeched to a stop. They called me like, hey, you got any ideas or any suggestions what we can do here? You got any like chipping hammers or stuff we can break this rock with? Like our cutter head is stuck in the 100 feet underground and 800 meters it's actually under the Fraser River. And I'm like, sure. Okay.
Oh, sure. Sure. I mean, that was the thing, then. It's like every time I talk to you, you would open your mouth about these. And then I was fortunate enough, I've gotten to read the original manuscript of your book, these stories of these challenges that people have. And now this is, obviously in construction and rock and digging and all of that. But you have a way of approaching problems that this stuff doesn't fluster you. You're like, I've never done that before. I've never had to dig out a thing in the underwater and 100 feet underwater, 800 meters in. Like, we've never done that before. A lot of people would struggle with that. Like, but you're like, sure, I think we can figure that out.
Well, that's what I really enjoyed, to tell you the truth, Angels, is I dropped out of high school. I mean, I didn't even really complete grade 12. I started it, but I just kind of started working instead. And I always find it like you have all these engineers that are calling or involved or, high performing people that get stuck and they're asking me, in my opinion, how would I do it? And I'm like, well, this is what I would do. And, you don't have to do it my way. You can do it any other way, but this is what I would do, and they like it and they go for it most of the time and it works.
They go for it
like,
most of the time.
And a lot of the stories, a lot of the companies, we have to have like a non-disclosure agreement, so they don't want to be named. But, we did one I can say we quoted on a job for the U.S. Navy where they had a submarine base and they bought a bigger submarine and they needed to deepen the harbor by another 56 feet. And of course it makes sense. You buy a bigger submarine, you got to park it somewhere. So they needed to break out the rock, 56 feet underwater, so they could park their bigger submarine.
I need a bigger garage for
it.
Right?
I just need to park it. Can you help me out? Sure.
Dennis, you crack me up. And that, I mean, these are real people's problems. Like, these are not things.
That's a real problem. Yeah. Like, where are you going to park your submarine, right? Like, I can't fit it. It doesn't fit. It's too big.
See, we could use that, right? You could use that in a storyline, or, we definitely need to add that chapter in, right? Sometimes you need a bigger garage or a bigger place to park your submarine.
I mean, you couldn't buy a smaller submarine. It just wouldn't do the job, right? But that's what I really enjoy is all that kind of stuff, over the years coming out and just kind of making, and like again, I never even thought about it before you mentioned it, months ago with journalists and reporters wanting to find stories, right? So I never thought, hey, maybe my stories are interesting.
And they really are. And here's what I find a lot of times is we don't even realize how interesting our stories are because we're just going to work every day. You're just doing what you do. This comes so naturally to you, Dennis. I coined the phrase, what you think is ordinary is magic to other people. And it is absolutely true. We're fascinated by your stories and even your decision-making process and how you approach challenges is a really unique it's really unique. And I think you putting it into a book, you sharing it here on your podcast with your audience is an incredible, it's far more valuable than I think you give it credit for. And for most of us, myself included, when I left broadcasting and I was now teaching entrepreneurs and organizations how to do their own PR, one of the exercises that we go through is kind of figuring out what all of your accolades are, right? And all the things that you've done that you know value you bring to the table. I did the exercise for myself. That's where I realized I was in the top 1% of my industry, that only less than a dozen podcasters, or not podcasters, radio talk show host 4 hours of talk radio. Less than 12 radio host more than 4 hours of talk radio every day. And less than even them, like less than 1% of those are women. So it's mostly men, but very few host 4 hours. And so I didn't even know that I was doing something that was
Really? Yeah.
really unique. And I think for you and for so many of my clients, when they come to me, they don't even realize like what you do is really cool. And we can share that. People would want to read that. They want to hear about that. There's such a demand. There's such a hunger for content, right? People are consuming content. In fact, I read this, or I heard this article. Sorry, I heard a speaker say that we consume on a daily basis as much content as reading J.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit every single day. That's a lot of content.
That's a
So
lot
if
of
we're
content.
consuming content, right? There's a demand for content, which means your stories, your podcast, your book, your press releases, your magazine articles. There's a high demand for that as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what I see too. You bring to the table like a whole nother level of connection, connection to celebrities or connections with like TV shows or radio shows, where not everybody has that ability, right? And like for me, I didn't even know, like, obviously, NBC exists and ABC and CTV exist, but are you going to call them? No. But if you know somebody that can call them and say, hey, I want a whatever spot, or hey, can you be a sponsor on this show? That's very, very valuable, right?
Yeah. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, you see like each one of the sharks, the things they invest in are the things that they have their own distribution network in. Right? So they know they've got distribution. And for any business, distribution is key. For you leveraging this platform, right? This podcast platform, a big piece of that is the distribution that they have for you. And so distribution is everything. We have spent the last 15 years building our distribution network, our contacts, our connections, building relationships with people in the media. And I do it every single day. I continue to add. Right. One of my things now is going to be, are you looking for guests, Dennis? And what type of guests are you looking for? Can I bring you people? Because I have a list, right? I have a list always in front of me of the folks that I manage their PR, right? And it's not a very long list, but it's long enough, right? Of folks I manage their PR, and can we book them on your show? Like, and I'm always looking for great places because my goal is 2 interviews a week and 1 press release a month.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a good formula. Like it is easier to grow than I originally thought. And it's really just getting out there, like you said.
Yeah. Every week. And it's really falling in love with the consistency. We often think that I can do one thing and it's going to catapult my business. And it might, but for sustainability, right, consistency, and to keep it going, it's really those weekly habits of visibility and exposure that are going to be the most critical to your success.
Yeah, I agree. And then one of the other things that I've noticed is even with the people that I've known and worked together with for years and years and years, having them on the show and going through the interview process, it really has strengthened and deepened our relationship. And then it's actually brought it to another level of like, hey, we really should do more. Or what else can we do in business? Like they want to sell our stuff or they want to partner in some way or another. But I found that very, very cool because it's like you've known this person for 10 or 15 years and you have a good relationship with them. but yet there's a lot more that's untapped yet. And then just through the interviewing them and kind of, like going through the, hey, how did you get started in this? Kind of what are some of the pitfalls? What hurdles did you fall up against? And how did you break through those? Like I have a guy, Niles, in Boston. He sells an electric dumper and electric excavators and stuff. And just through that one question, like I didn't even know, but he's Irish. And he said, one day I was driving down the highway in Ireland. I saw a truck with the dumper thing on the back. And I thought, hey, that looks cool. I should phone them up. So like, okay. So he phoned them up and talked to Sean, who's the owner of the he manufactures them in Ireland. He says, hey, have any distribution in the US? And he says, no. And he said, well, I'm moving to the US. Maybe I can sell them over there for you. So he says, okay, sure. And then so he got started. Now he's quite big at it, and just that one thing. And it just so reminded me of like when I got into the fuel business, I had an old gas station that I bought, and I had it just as a yard for our equipment and stuff in the shop. And I had some friend call me up and he says, hey, I want to rent a little corner of the yard if you want to rent it out. I have a guy that'll do some business there with me. So I said, sure. And then he said, if you want to supply fuel, we could put in a fuel tank and you could supply fuel. So I said, okay, sure. So then I'm doing the same as Niles. I'm just driving down the highway and I see a little tanker truck with the phone number on it. So I call him up from my car and I see the driver pick up the phone, and it was the owner of this little company. So I'm like, hey, do you deliver fuel? Like, obviously he does because it's on all over his truck. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I said, great. Well, how much to deliver to my place over here? And he gave me a price, and that got me going in the fuel business. And then my customers started buying more and more and more fuel. And I thought, geez, I should actually buy a fuel truck. So I went to California. I hooked up with a used truck dealer down there. I bought my first tanker truck. I brought it to Canada. I got it set up. I bought 2, 3, 4 more tanker trucks. Got gas stations I was supplying, and all from that one thing. Like, just, hey, I'm driving down the freeway. I need fuel. And look, there's a fuel truck with a phone number on it.
With his phone number right there, right? So often the answer is right in front of us.
It's right in front of you, but you gotta make the move, right? You gotta have the courage. Like, hey, I'm gonna just do this and not. I don't feel any fear in failing and stuff. I just, like, sometimes I do. As to be honest, I think we all do. But you have to just kind of do it anyway, right?
Yeah, you don't have the fear of trying something.
Yeah. I don't have the fear of trying. Yeah. Failure is inevitable sometimes. Yeah.
Try something. Yeah. Make a phone call. I mean, it kind of stinks when it doesn't work out, right? Like, what was I thinking? But just being willing to put in some effort and to know, right? There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. Right? Have you ever heard that? And so
no, I haven't heard that.
Right? Maybe I should have tried a different way, or I could do it, approach it, someplace different. Yeah. No such thing as failure, only feedback, right? We learned, the light bulb thing, right? All the ways not to build a light bulb. And so now we know not to do that. And again, Dennis, I remember just meeting you and hearing your stories, and you just, when a door would open up, you would step through it. And that's a huge lesson for all of us, because when a door opens up, I think a lot of times we stand back and look at it and, well, is this the right door, and what's on the other side? And I don't know if that's the handle I wanted, right? Is that what I wanted the door? I was really looking for a wooden door and it's a glass door. Like there's we talk ourselves out of stuff. You step through it. And I think that's just super valuable for all of us. Like, just, if a door opens up, step through it. And if you don't like it, you can always go back, right? We are not a tree. We can move.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I always say, like, it's always better to make a decision. Yeah, make a decision and go forwards, because you can always change a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and one of the things that I've done, one of the things that I've done, even as like a very young entrepreneur, is like, if I would have a big decision and I couldn't decide, believe it or not, I would flip a coin. And then some people would think, oh, that's so stupid. Why would you do that? And I'm like, well, you kind of know in the back of your mind what you want, but just flipping a coin just kind of, instigates some action, right?
Yeah, while it's in the air, in the air, you want it to land.
Exactly. You know which side of the coin you want to land face up, right?
True. That is true.
Whether it does or not, it just kind of makes you take action. And it's all in the action, right?
Yes.
I think as human beings, we sit and we kind of ponder and think about things a lot. And then that also prevents us from taking action. And it's really in the action that things happen.
I like the flip a coin story. So, yeah, you know which
Yeah.
way you want it to land. Huh.
Yeah. You just
Good
aren't sure
stuff.
about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
very
have
good.
another guy that I follow sometimes. He's in the UK. He's got like an aggregate company. They have trucks or lorries, as they call them over there. They do strip outs and demolition work, and they haul things away and they crush it and grind it and all that. And he has a saying where activity creates more activity. And I really kind of gravitated to that because in the activity, you get to bill, like you get to write invoices on all the activities that you do, right?
That
So
is
I kind of
true.
take it from like an idea to like a connection. You need to connect with people. And then through those people, you need to generate activities. And the activities are your money, right? That's where you get to write a bill and collect money.
I say that media attracts more media and stages attracts more stages. So the more often you put yourself out there, the more opportunity comes. And even when you celebrate your success with a press release, I always say the more you celebrate your success, the more success you'll have to celebrate. And so it's this perpetual momentum. And same thing, right? Activity creates more activity, and especially when you can bill for it, that's always good for business, right? Ring the
Yeah,
register.
exactly. But I like what you just said, and I think for me personally, a lot of that stuff I don't do. Like I, as soon as I complete something or I find some success with something, I just go on to the next thing, right?
Mhm.
Instead of
We need
instead
to
of
take a
taking that
pause,
time to
Dennis,
celebrate it.
and
Yeah,
celebrate
yeah.
it. Yeah. So here's my tip for that is, what day of the month does your birthday fall on, Dennis? Mine's the 18th.
Mine's the 17th.
The 17th. Okay. So on the 17th of the month, I want you to put a recurring reminder on your calendar,
Okay.
right? That's your PR day. That's celebration day.
Okay.
And just look back at the last 2 weeks, look ahead at the next 2 weeks. Like, what are you most excited about? What have you done? What have you accomplished? What are you getting ready to do? And bring your team together, celebrate, put out a press release, right, of the thing you're most excited about. And then at the end of the day, I like to pour myself something bubbly, right? A little bath, a little drink, right?
Hmm.
But celebrate
Yeah.
it and take stock and take notice, because as entrepreneurs, we move to the next. Which can often lead to burnout. It can often lead to not feeling like we're doing enough, or we haven't hit a milestone we were expecting. But to truly celebrate, look at what we've done, take stock, notice how far have we come? How far have we come in the last 90 days, in the last 6 months, in the last year? I mean, truly, we met. You'd never heard of me before, Dennis, and you
Hmm.
came to one 3-day event, and look at how much has catapulted out of that. The relationships, the connections, the media, the exposure, the visibility, the growth. I mean, just it's like a 5-year growth in just a few short months. So I hope you celebrate.
Yeah. I've noticed that too, and through the winter was quite slow. We didn't have very much going on, but now it's busy. And I look back, and even through the slow times, I was able to do a lot of research, to do a lot of writing, and put things together so that I'm ready to go when it's busy. And now that I'm busy, I'm thinking like I didn't do enough, but I also have done so much, and all the stuff that I've done. Like today, we had our container go out that I had all custom fabricated. We have these shipping containers that are all set up with all of our drills and tools and stuff that are very customized. And it took, months of fabricating, planning, designing, drawing, uh, having things not fit and having them refit. but now it's actually going out to a job, and it'll make money. And it's also like our prototype now. So now that we've got that one done, we can build as many as we want.
I love it. I love it. I'm so excited for you. And just the expansion of what you're doing, and not only creating something for brand new businesses. I mean, you're creating a whole new commerce, a way for
Hmm.
companies to grow and to spread your knowledge, right? The things that you have learned, and you're really creating a legacy.
Yeah, I think so too. It's been very exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what do you see in the future there, Angel? What do you have on your radar?
Oh, Dennis, we started that Facebook group, like I said, almost 3 years ago, and it has just absolutely expanded. So we are adding more resources as far as for podcasters that we've never had before. And we're starting a brand new association called Top Podcast Association. We're officially launching it out of our Media Mastery Bootcamp in a couple of weeks. We're in beta right now. We have a whole group of advertisers and sponsors who are looking to sponsor podcasts. We have, like I said, 52,000 people in our network to find guests and be guests. So we have been working behind the scenes for the last 4 months with the technology and the software and the automation and the back end, because technology is not my skill set. I just like to go and meet people and inspire them to go and do great things. And so in the meantime, we're managing PR for a handful of really fun clients, and super excited about that. But yeah, we're building out. So the Facebook group is called Need a Guest. So if you need a guest, you can go to needaguest.com and it'll take you to the Facebook group, and it's a free site. It's our community. And then from there, we have a premium program where you can get premium for free and get invited into our Top Podcast Association. So that's launching. It's coming. And it is kicking my butt as we are wildly building that on the back end.
Yeah, that's exciting. Sounds like a lot of good stuff will come from that too. And any more Mexico retreats in the wind?
We just came back from one, Dennis. I'm just 2 weeks ago we were in Mexico. So once a year we take a small group, and we have a media mastermind in Mexico every April. We just came back. I think we're going to make next year's. We're just going to have an option, a little bit lighter of an option to stay on a few extra days, because I think we were just really getting into the groove of being on vacation and, kind of island time. And, we're only there for 5 days. So I think we'll stretch it to a full week next year. Well, we'll still have the mastermind for the original piece, but then just a couple extra days of just R&R for those that want to stick around.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't make the last one, but I'll definitely make it to next year's then if you have the next year's one.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. I think it'll, with all the things that you're doing and creating, just we'll have to, I don't have the dates yet. I was going to say, save the dates. I don't have them yet, but somewhere in April next year. Save all of April for me.
I'll save all of April. Yeah, I'll see you in Mexico.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was telling Dave that I got to come down. Oh, I know. And today it's raining here. We've had a really nice week last week, or the last part of this week, but today is raining. But every time where I get on here with Dave, it's just like, oh, it's sunny. I rode my bike to work today. I'm like, yeah, okay. I got to take my umbrella to work today.
Well, even when it rains here, it's not cold. And I just love that. We do get weather, but it's not cold. Although I did have to put an extra blanket on my bed a couple times, January, February, which kind of surprised me. But what the hardest thing is about living in Florida, in the Florida weather, is when I travel, I forget how cold it is every place else. And I am I'm freezing. So I've now I bought one of those little puffer jackets, right, that squishes super small. And I take it with me now wherever I go, because it is so cold in the rest of the country. And tights, because I always wear dresses. So I pack tights and I pack my jacket because it is cold everywhere else. Awesome.
Yeah. And you're all good to go. That's great. Well, I thank you for joining us today, Angel. That was fantastic. Again, always great to talk with you and see you. And look forward to doing more and more stuff together. It's the book is going to come out. We're getting close now, and we'll just keep rocking along.
Well, rocking along, no pun intended. I love it.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to be a guest on a future episode and tell us your story, visit our website at www.rockbusters.com. If you have a project and would like to learn more about our products, or if you're interested in partnering with us and becoming a distributor, give us a call. Thanks again. We appreciate your support.